So I want to take a look now at a sample view that I've created. I'm going to actually supply you with this file as well to help guide you through the second lab. But I'm in Management Studio right now, and if you remember from last semester, we had this little demo, this database demo, a database that I created, and there's a couple of tables in it. There's invoices and vendors, and you of course had a lab where you created some tables and defined all of the different columns and such, and with appropriate data types. So I've just expanded under database demo the tables. Just to remind you, I've got invoices and vendors. They're two very small tables, and under the views node I've got this sample view here. So I can open that up, and you know, there are 3 columns in the view, and just like anything else, I can go into this view and I'm going to just select the top 1000 rows. It generates an SQL statement and it gives me the results. So I want to take a look at the file that actually created that thing. So some of the syntax. So first off, we're going to connect to the appropriate database here. This little block of code right here, this was on the PowerPoint, and I feel it's worth going over just a little bit here. All this does is it checks to see if a particular object exists. So in other words, it's not null. If it does exist, it drops it. So this is like when you created a table, and if the table existed or not, you could just start the file. I think in the case of the create table files, all we did was just include a drop table at the start, and that's strictly for development purposes. So as you go through and develop the table or recreate the table, you can then just start with a clean slate every time. Well, in this case, we've put a little bit of logic in here using some of the logic available to us through the syntax in SQL Server. You get the smart tags that come up that give you the parameters, the necessary parameters, and of course anytime you hit F1 you can go straight to help on all of these as well. So if a view called sample view is not null, then drop sample view, because I'm about to recreate it. And these go statements, they're really just signals to SQL Server that that block is completed, done, move on to the next block. Having dropped or not the view, we go ahead and create something called sample view. So create view, give it a decent name. I have identified 3 alias fields, and if we take a look at the fields in invoices, I've got invoice date and invoice total. And if we take a look at the fields in vendors, I've got vendor ID and vendor name. Of course, I've got vendor ID in invoices as well. I'm not going to use any of those names. I want to hide that data, so I'm going to pick new field names for the view itself. So retailer, retailer ID, and average purchase, which will get me every vendor's name, their ID, and an average of their invoice total, so how much they buy on average over time. So it is the 2 tables. So right off the bat, there's a join in this, so this is not going to be an updatable view. We're not going to be able to update records on those underlying tables. They're joined on vendor ID, and because I've got that aggregate function in there, I have to of course group the result. And that's it. That's the create view statement right there. Like what we did when we created tables though, you know, it's always a good idea to include that select star from what it is you just created, just to see what the records are. In fact, when we did it with tables, we did it on the insert file. So after we've inserted records, we select them all. So same idea here. We've created this view based on a select statement from a couple underlying tables. Let's go ahead and select star from that sample view. I've included in this, of course, what I would expect to see from you in terms of robust commenting in this file, and then of course corresponding print statements for any output. The only output here really is from this select statement. So let's just take a look up here. Don't forget, you want to go results to file, so I'm just going to hit this. We'll save that, and then my output inside here, rows generated by the view sample view, that of course came from my print statement. 3 fields identifying the vendor name, vendor ID, and average purchase of each vendor. If I go back over to that folder, there's my report file, and I'll just open that up, and there's the output. Let's take a look at something else though here. I've created a couple quick query statements. So I'm just going to open this file. This first statement, I'm just selecting everything from sample view with an average purchase. Remember, that's that that column I created, average purchase of greater than 250, put it in order of average purchase. This one I'm selecting all three fields for any retailer that has patio as the start of their name. And then I've got retailer from the view, and then an invoice date and invoice table from table invoices. So I'm actually joining the view to a table where retailer ID, that's the generated view column, equals vendor ID, all invoices for 2013, 2014, and then I'll put it in order. We'll put that thing out to file. There's no comments in this one yet. I'll comment it before I give it to you. And then I'll just run that. And where's my report? There we go. There's the first one where I selected everything with average purchases of greater than 250, so it just gave me 4 rows. The second one was give me 3 fields for any retailer with patio as the start of their name. And then the last one was all the sales for 2013 and 2014. So there you go, creating views and selecting from those views.